Good morning, welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Yeah, it's Tory Party conference, isn't it? Tory Party conference. I can feel you're all enthralled at home, aren't you? I bet you can't wait to hear.
Well, of course, the big rumours were about whether or not Kemi Badenoch's leadership was under threat. But I think, as you said, the situation in France must give her some comfort because 5 prime ministers in 5 years. I mean, it's like the French Revolution all over again.
It really is. And I'm just not surprised. I mean, obviously, France is in a complete crisis and it makes us look sane, doesn't it, in this country?
Absolutely.
It really does.
Absolutely.
Well, anyway, foreign nationals could be barred from claiming benefits under Tory plans to slash almost $50 billion from government spending.
Well, we'll be crossing to the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, live in just under an hour. He's expected to argue that Britain can't keep spending money we simply don't have.
Well, he's certainly right. And GB News presenter Andrew Pearce joins us live from Tory Party conference. Andrew, what's the atmosphere like down there?
Well, I have to say, I've been coming to Tory Party conference since 1988 or 1989. I've never known it so empty. I'll be talking to a member of the Shadow Cabinet about that quite shortly. I think the party is dazed, stunned by its position in the polls. They're in 3rd place, and I saw a poll today, or was it yesterday, suggesting they could be down to 45 MPs, and we thought it was bad that they're stuck on 119. So I don't think the mood is great, but let's talk to Alex Burghart, who is a member of the Shadow Cabinet, Cabinet Office Minister. I've got to ask you, where is everybody?
Look, last year, you remember, we had a leadership contest.
Yeah.
And I think that brought a few more people in. We're 4 years out from a general election, and last year we had a big defeat. So look, these are bound to be the slower times of the cycle. I mean, you'll remember what it was like in '97 and '98. You know, it was also pretty slow back then.
There were more people then.
Yeah, but there were also more people involved in all political parties at that stage.
Maybe your activists who aren't here have already left and gone to Reform.
No, I don't think that's true, Andrew. Don't be cheeky. That's
because
not right
you know,
at all.
Reform's membership is now up to 250,000.
So they
I think the Tories are barely on 120,000. Yeah, nobody really knows the Tory membership.
Well, nobody really knows Reform. It's all self-reported. It's not independently audited. So but you can carry on sort of repeating Farage's propaganda if you want.
Okay, let's talk about the Tory leader's speech. She says that a Tory government will kick out 150,000 migrants, illegal migrants, every year with this new border force, this Trumpian border force. She was flummoxed when she was asked in an interview yesterday, where will they go?
Well, it's up to them, but they'll have to leave the country. It's not, they've got to leave the country. It's not our concern where they go. It's for them to find out. So
you're going to put them on a plane to where?
Well, either. I mean, we will definitely have a Rwanda-style deterrent programme, which will deport people to a safe third country. We will definitely have that, and could be with Rwanda. It could be with multiple countries.
150,000 won't go to Rwanda. When Rwanda, we're only going to take a few hundred.
No, that's right. But there'll also be lots of people who can go to other countries. Right? There are lots of safe countries around the world. There are lots of places that people can go to, but they can't stay here.
But why would these safe countries want our cast-offs?
Well, because some...
Are you going to pay them to take them?
No, you don't need to pay them to go. And that's what Labour are doing at the moment. You saw that flight that had deported a very small number of criminals. They were given £2,000 each.
Shocking.
Really shocking.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not what taxpayers in my constituency are paying money to the government for. We're not going to do that. People will have to leave. Their entitlement to stay in this country will end.
But if there isn't a return agreement with a country, I struggle to see how you will be able to say. So, for instance, if you've got 2,000 Afghans, are you going to send them back to war-torn Afghanistan, run by the Taliban?
So, where you have countries that you can't do a deal with, then that's why you have third country processing. And we had a deal with Rwanda, but there's no reason why you can't get deals with lots of other countries as well.
Why would anybody believe a word you say about this, bearing in mind that migration, legal and illegal, soared on the Tory watch, and we had the famous Boris wave, 1.2 million in 1 year. Why are they going to think you've had this Damascene conversion to cutting migration?
Absolutely everyone in our party wants to see a reduction, very, very significant, historic reduction in immigration. And that's why we're setting out at this conference here. The theme of this conference is stronger borders, stronger economy. And we're setting out this conference not just what we would like to do, but how we are going to do it. And you'll have seen the brilliant report that Lord Wolfson has written for us. Lord Wolfson KC, one of the most senior barristers in the country, has written not just saying that we're going to leave the ECHR, but saying how we will do it. You know, going into the most intricate detail that anybody has ever done. I've been reading about ECHR departure for about 10 years. I can tell you no one has ever done the granularity of work. I'll tell you what, having been a minister in 3 government departments, that is a higher quality piece of legal advice than civil servants will give you. So anyone out there saying that, oh, you know, it's just easy, we'll get into government and we'll push a button and it'll all happen. They have no experience of government, they don't know how it works, and they will fall flat on their faces. It's the Conservatives that are doing the detailed work that will enable us to take back control of our borders.
On press time, just before I let you go, isn't the problem is you're announcing you're going to leave the ECHR, you're announcing these mass deportations. It all seems Farage light because Nigel Farage got there first, because Kemi Badenoch took the view that she would sink beneath the waves for a year and we wouldn't hear from her.
Farage has, what Nigel is doing, which he's very good at, is campaigning. Come out with something and say, Nigel Farage saying, oh, we need a British Bill of Rights. We absolutely don't, Andrew. And anyone who's read the report and done the work that Lord Wilson has done knows that there's absolutely no need. In fact, it would create all sorts of legal complications, exactly the sort we're trying to get away from. This is what happens if you're like Reform and you just rush out ideas without doing the hard work. We've done the hard work. It means we will be able to get answers for the British people if we get back into power.
All right, that's Alex Burghart. He is the Tory MP for Brentwood and Ongar and the Shadow Cabinet Office Minister, and he says the Tories have done the hard work. Well, back to you in the studio.
What did you make of Mel Strider? Were you enthralled?
Not particularly, no. I think the Conservatives are in a bit of a difficult place because on the one hand they're saying, look, the main challenge from Nigel Farage on reform is one that doesn't have the answers, but at the same time, the Conservative Party has now developed a bad habit of copying the answers that are being put forward by reform, whether it's leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, whether it's restricting welfare benefits to UK citizens, whether it's looking at comprehensive reforms to save billions of pounds, particularly around the welfare regime, which I know for a fact Reform are going to be coming out with. I think, this is a party that it's not really having a conversation with the country anymore because the country is tuned out. Path dependency in politics matters. Where you start determines where you end up. And where this party has started is that dismal 14 years of government. So it's very difficult for them to have a really strong, engaging conversation with the country.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I guess people used to say that Reform were pound shop Tories, and now it seems like the Tories are pound shop Reform. It's really interesting.
Peter, this is a question, though, that all the major political parties are grappling with. A welfare bill that's going out of control, and yet the polling suggests, certainly, that when you ask people about specific benefits that should be cut, there isn't really anybody in favour of any of it. So the Conservatives are right, aren't they, to try and look for savings?
Every party is trying to look for savings. I'm not going to use your phrase, the Conservatives are right, aren't they? But what do we mean when you talk about the benefits bill? As you said, there are lots of different types of benefits. So I think although the rhetoric of people like Reform have undermined the concept of a social safety net, I think there's still public support in that, and I've had many friends and family members who've been out of work for a matter of weeks or months, and the safety net should be there to provide. But we're all aware, and probably what gives Rachel Reeves nightmares is particularly the rise of sickness benefits, often driven by mental health for people of working age. That's what's driving future slightly terrifying projections for the Social Security Bill, setting aside the triple lock on pensions, which so far no mainstream party has been willing to touch in their search for cuts. So I think every party, when they're in opposition, looks for cuts. And we know that social security spending is important because the national debt has risen enormously, and as a country, we're still recovering from the economic impact of COVID. I suspect whatever Mel Stride, Shadow Chancellor, announces today will be a footnote in history barely that. Mel Stride won't be Chancellor, and in a year or two's time, we'll have forgotten what he said today.
Well, this is interesting, Matthew, because I've seen interviews with Priti Patel. I've seen interviews with... we've obviously had Boris Johnson coming out the other day saying he regrets net zero, but Priti Patel and Boris Johnson still not saying sorry or apologising for mass migration, the Boris wave, as it's now famously called. What do you make of that?
Well, look, I put it like this. If you invited an architect into your home and the architect destroyed your home, would you invite the architect back? Of course you wouldn't. And I think many people feel that way about what the Conservative Party, Boris Johnson and Priti Patel did by opening up the floodgates to masses, historically unprecedented amounts of low-skill, low-wage migration from outside of Europe. Now, the fact that Boris Johnson could come out and say, well, look, I got it wrong on net zero, but won't come out and say, I got it wrong on one of the biggest policy blunders in our country's history, I think is absolutely outrageous. And the people watching this show out there, you know, the hard-working, tax-paying, law-abiding majority, they can see what has happened here. They can see that they were betrayed, that the Conservatives said in their 2019 manifesto, lower overall numbers, and they can see that they were given the exact opposite. Until the Conservatives have that reckoning on mass migration, they're simply not going to be allowed back into the conversation.